Good morning, Karen. Good morning, members of the Midas Mighty. Good morning, legal AFers. Good morning, world. Welcome to day 2 of our continuing special edition coverage of the first criminal trial to take place against Donald Trump. This is the case where Donald Trump is being prosecuted by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. The case is in Manhattan. The presiding judge is Justice Juan Merchan. Donald Trump being charged with 34 separate felony counts for the falsification of business records in connection with his interference in the 2016 election, whereby Donald Trump made hush money payments to an adult film actress, falsified business records to cover up the payments there too. In day 1, Karen, it was eventful. We had early on in the day, we had a number of motions and pretrial things that were taking place. Here we have our handy dandy Trump trial scorecard. We're keeping track each and every day. We'll, of course, generate a new one at the end of day 2, at the end of today. But just to remind everybody what happened on day 1, and then Karen, I want to get your take on everything that's happened. And I also want to show what happened yesterday afternoon as well. Let's take a look at that scorecard. The Trump motion to recuse Justice Merchan was denied. Evidence of Donald Trump's catch and kill scheme that actually predated the payments to Stormy Daniels after AMI, the parent company of the National Enquirer, which was being used initially for these catch and kill schemes, whereby they were finding individuals who had bad stories on Donald Trump, people who Donald Trump had sex with or engaged in other types of misconduct with, would buy their life rights, would buy their stories, then literally kill the story from ever seeing the light of day. And when they stopped doing it, Donald Trump came up with a new scheme to find business records with Michael Cohen to go about doing that. And ultimately that led to the payment to Stormy Daniels and falsifying that payment as legal fees. Pull back up the other incidents the other events that took place. We learned about some of these documents that were returned by the Department of Justice from that 11th hour subpoena by Donald Trump. Rather than being exculpatory, a lot of them seem to be inculpatory, actually not helpful to Donald Trump, the few documents that may have any bearing. We're talking about some text messages from Steve Bannon and Kellyanne Conway and Hope Hicks and others following the release of the Access Hollywood tapes. The Manhattan District Attorney yesterday, just as a reminder, filed a motion to hold Donald Trump in contempt, and Justice Merchan set a hearing for April 23rd. They're now calling him Sleepy Don, because he kept on falling asleep during the proceedings. Some people are even calling him Don Snorleone, based on the fact that he kept on falling asleep, fell asleep in the morning session. We're talking about for minutes long, just falling asleep. And then in the afternoon, let's pull back up that graphic one more time. Donald Trump and his lawyers did not submit their exhibit book, which is due today now. They didn't have an exhibit list or no defense exhibits, which is something that really upset Justice Merchan and would upset any justice or judge, because that's supposed to be submitted weeks in advance of trial, or certainly not while trial is actually starting. Donald Trump fell asleep again while jurors were arriving, and jurors were told what this case was about. Justice Merchan made clear to call Donald Trump Mr. Trump. He explained the importance of jurors as fact finders. 96 jurors entered the courtroom, 200 remained in the hall. They were doing this hybrid voir dire to initiate the voir dire, where first they asked the prospective jurors if they could be fair and impartial. About 50 jurors said they couldn't. That left another 46 remaining, who are now being questioned through the voir dire process to come up with that final jury panel. And that brings us in a very long-winded way to day 2. And I, of course, want to talk about some other events that happened yesterday afternoon and into the evening. But let me pause there, Karen. let's get your take on what happened yesterday. But I think more importantly, even where are we going today? How do we prepare our audience here for what to expect in the next few hours?
What struck me so much about yesterday's court day was how utterly ordinary it was. It started the way most cases start, right before trial, where the parties get together and talk to the judge, and the judge says, are there any outstanding issues that we need to address? We've had all our motion practice. We've had our pretrial motions. What are the housekeeping or ministerial things that are left to discuss? And that took the better part of the morning. And the parties went over all the outstanding issues that you just went over. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time. It's a lot of waiting. Everyone's wondering when are they going to start jury selection. And then the jury selection portion of the trial started when they brought in a panel of people. There were 96 people they brought into the courtroom. And as you pointed out, a lot of them, about 50 people of them, left saying they couldn't be fair. And it's very interesting because I've tried a lot of cases. I've spent my entire career trying cases in that building, and I've been before Judge Marchand many, many times. And it's very common in cases that involve either a long duration or a high profile defendant, or even in certain cases that have certain factual or crimes charged, like sexual assault, for example, where people say, I'm a fair and impartial person, but this isn't the case for me. And I can't sit in a case like this where I'm going to be fair and impartial. And you sometimes get about half the people who leave who say they can't serve because of that. So this might be slightly more than usual number of people, but it's not outrageous to have this happen. And in fact, it actually shows that the process is working, that you don't have people who are trying to sneak on the jury. You have people who say, look, I know myself, and I'm somebody who either dislikes Donald Trump so much or loves Donald Trump so much, either way, that I know that I can't look at the facts here and the law here and hold the people to their burden, and only convict if the people have met their burden beyond a reasonable doubt, or acquit if they haven't. And those people, you want them to be honest about that. And so it shows that the jury selection, the voir dire, is actually working. And this is the thing that Donald Trump said, I can't possibly get a fair trial in New York. Well, this shows that it's actually working and that people are self-selecting. You don't have to ask all the little questions to try to find them. They're telling you right off the bat. And so I was really pleased to see that, because we know there are people who have very, very strong feelings and opinions about Donald Trump. The other thing that struck me also was, it was interesting when watching the news coverage of this. There were reporters that were sitting outside the courtroom, Caitlin Collins in particular, and at first I thought, what is that train going by? It sounded like a train sound every time that she was speaking, or that there was reporting going on outside the courtroom. And I noticed there, because and I also know that they largely were managing the traffic flow. First of all, there is no train anywhere near that courthouse. So that's why the sound made no sense. But you can then, if you really looked in the background, there were protests going on. It was almost like, at first it felt like a parade, because you could see these cars with big American flags making noise going around, and they were circling the courthouse over and over again. So again, very interesting, but we're used to colorful, dramatic characters in Manhattan around the courthouse. And so it just felt so ordinary and routine. You've got defendant falling asleep because it's so boring, right? That happens too all the time. We've had sleeping jurors, we've had sleeping lawyers, we have sleeping witnesses, sleeping audience members, and even a judge or two has been known to snooze in a really boring case when things drag on. So it's not a good thing, and it shouldn't happen, but it's not. It's kind of, what happens. And he's not in a fancy courthouse. He's in 100 Center Street, which I have to say is one of the more drab and not clean and kind of in need of modernization courthouses, certainly in New York. But it holds some of the most significant trials in this country because it's the Manhattan DA's office practices there, and that's where all their cases get brought. And they've been known for decades and decades and decades to be on the cutting edge. So what really struck me about the trial on day one was just how much it felt like every other trial, and how just extremely ordinary it was, and what a great equalizer the criminal justice system is, because it doesn't matter who you are, it all looks the same. It's in the same courtroom, use the same disgusting bathrooms, and that's where you have it. And I think you're going to see, Ben, it's going to start picking up a lot starting today. We've got some people in the box. They've started answering their questions. The judge handed out a questionnaire that had 42 questions, and he asked each person to read the questions and answer them, but you don't have to say the questions out loud. So you just go through and say, I am a lawyer. I live in Lower Manhattan. I'm married. You just kind of answer the questions as you go. And it was reported that Donald Trump followed along reading the questions as well. And so they started to get through those questions. Those are the judge's questions that he's asking. The judge started with his statement that he was giving the jury. And it says, and I love this statement because it's how the judge sees this case and what he's telling the jurors about it. It says that Donald Trump falsified business records to conceal an agreement with others to unlawfully influence the 2016 presidential election. He then goes on and just talks about the case more, but he frames it in terms of an election interference case. And I thought that was it shows that the judge understands the case and views the case that way. And so today you're just going to see more of the jurors who are sitting in the box answer those questions. And then will come time finally for the lawyers to start to ask questions. And you're going to see a lot of questions from the lawyers, I think, that are going to be looking for more information to try to find those stealth jurors who didn't self-select to say that they can't be fair and impartial, and really test them, the ones who say that they're there, because you really don't want, if you're the prosecution, you don't want a juror who is not fair, who can't look at the evidence and follow the facts, and render a verdict that is fair. If you're Donald Trump, or any defendant for that matter, you are looking for the juror who is either going to support you or who is going to somehow hang the jury, because in a criminal case, it has to be a unanimous verdict. All 12 jurors have to unanimously find a defendant either guilty or not guilty. If they can't make a decision, if all 12 can't make a decision one way or another, then they hang, and it's a mistrial, which means it has to be retried. But I don't think anyone wants that here in particular, or in any case actually, but in this particular case in general, they definitely don't want, if you're the prosecutor, you do not want a hung jury. That would be terrible, terrible, terrible. Another question that has come up that people have asked is there's a discussion about, and we'll talk about this as the trial goes on, but one other thing that the jury might be asked to consider is whether is the lesser included. There's a lot that gets talked about this falsified business records in the first degree. The charge here, there's 34 counts of it, that it's basically a bump up felony. It's you falsified business records, which is a misdemeanor, but you did it with the intent to conceal another crime. And here they're alleging election law violations or tax crimes were the ones that Donald Trump intended to conceal or commit or aid the commission of. And so, but if there isn't that extra part of it, then it's just a misdemeanor. And will the jury compromise on a misdemeanor here? So that's another open question that you could see depending on how the evidence comes out. So there's a lot that's going to happen, but I think you could see a juror or two or three picked tomorrow. I don't think you're going to see a lot more than that. The parties have already been told they get around 30 minutes each side to ask questions. And then after that, they start going through challenges, and the challenges to the jury is going to be that the challenges that the jury is going to the lawyers are going to make today against the jury are there's two kinds of challenges. There's for cause challenges and peremptory challenges. And for cause challenges means that they have said something that makes it so they are not qualified to sit for the jury. It could be anything from they don't speak or understand English, or they have hearing problems, that kind of disqualification, to the I can't be fair and impartial in this case. And if they do that and they say they absolutely cannot be, then they will be challenged for cause. The parties have unlimited number of for cause challenges, but there are the no matter what challenges that can't be based on anything like that is constitutionally protected, like gender, race, etc., as long as you have a reason that is not based on something like that, then you can challenge them. And because this is a low-level felony, a Class E felony, the statute says each side gets 10 peremptory challenges. So they'll go through that as well. So today we're going to be seeing that type of thing where they go through them in order from who's seated in seat number one, and they go in order and they start making their challenges. And the judge will then start seating other people to replace the ones that aren't chosen. And at some point they will have a number of jurors who they'll then have to swear. And once they are sworn, jeopardy attaches, meaning that double jeopardy would attach if something were to happen, and so, which means you can't be tried again. So it's kind of a big deal. It's very, very important. The jurors understand the import of being a juror. I have found I've spoken to many jurors after a trial, and it's really a real civic duty that they're doing, and they take it very, very seriously. So I think that's what you're going to see today is a lot of jury selection. So, but I think we're going to have a jury by the end of this week. Today's Tuesday, Wednesday, there is no trial, and then there'll be more jury selection Thursday and Friday. I know that the clerk, Milton Tingling, who's been the clerk of New York City for ever since I've been a lawyer, and he's been around for a long time. He knew in advance to summon 500 jurors for this trial, because he knew that that's what happens when you have a big case, or a case involving a celebrity or a high profile, or a long trial. He knows, and they know that it's going to take a lot of people before they can get to 18, because there's going to be 12 jurors and 6 alternates. So that's what we're going to see today, Ben.
Karen, Donald Trump always has his kind of go-to thing in all of these trials about what he repeats over and over again when he wants to play the victim, right? In the New York Attorney General civil fraud case, the lie was that Justice Engoron claims that Mar-a-Lago is worth 18 million. It's worth, 50 to 100 times that. How dare this judge say that it was $18 million? Of course, what Donald Trump was saying is false. Judges don't serve as appraisers. What Justice Engoron simply found was that this is what Donald Trump was saying Mar-a-Lago was valued at when Donald Trump wanted to pay less taxes. It was an undisputed fact that Trump had devalued Mar-a-Lago by turning it into a commercial property and a club, not a residential property, because Trump wanted to pay less property tax. And then when Donald Trump wanted to take out a loan, he claimed that all of the easements and club restrictions and everything that was attached to it didn't exist. And that was one of the major aspects of the fraud there. Why I mention that is that Donald Trump is rolling out, and sometimes he tries to workshop it, but the one line that he keeps working, that he's workshopping right now and rolling out, is that how dare Justice Merchan prevent me from going to my son's high school graduation? I so wanted to attend Barron's graduation, and however will I explain to Barron what this judge has done to me? And then Donald Trump rolls that out because he's got to play the victim. He's got to whine about something. And that's the go-to line. Just to be very clear before reading to you what Donald Trump posted, Justice Merchan has not ruled on this yet at all. Donald Trump and his lawyer said that Trump wanted to attend the graduation. Trump hasn't attended his other kids' high school graduations. Frankly, I'm not sure if Donald Trump even knows that his son's name is Barron. But Justice Merchan just said, look, you claim that graduation's like May 17th. It's April 15th. We don't know what the schedule is going to be like then. This is a criminal trial. I'm not allowing people just to make the schedule for the court. We'll see what happens as we get closer to the date. And on that basis, Donald Trump took that to say, how unfair is this? I just want to see Barron's graduation. The one thing Justice Merchan did say, though, is that Donald Trump was asking next week to attend the Washington, D.C., in the Washington, D.C. federal criminal case. The Supreme Court is going to be holding oral arguments on Trump's claim that he could order SEAL Team 6 to kill his political opponents and that he should have absolute presidential immunity. Trump wanted to attend that, or so his lawyer said. And Justice Merchan said, that's not something you have to be at all. There's no role for you at that oral argument. If you want, you could just listen to it on the recording later in the day. There's no role for you there, but you have to be here. This is a criminal case. This is a criminal trial. This is where you're obligated to be because these are serious felony charges. So no, you don't get to decide your schedule. This is a criminal case. You must show up every day. Here's what Donald Trump's been posting, and I won't read the whole thing because it's just really whiny and annoying. But Trump goes, who will explain for me to my wonderful son, Barron, who is a great student at a fantastic school, that his dad will likely not be allowed to attend his graduation ceremony? Something that we have been talking about for years. What a liar. Because a seriously conflicted and corrupt New York judge, and just he keeps on whining there, throughout this statement. Here's another post that Donald Trump's campaign made shortly after the court proceedings yesterday, and this was another one of the lies. Emergency broadcast from President Trump. I'm addressing the nation. I just stormed out of Biden's kangaroo court. And again, he's calling it Biden's court, but he's lying to his base to raise money and claiming that he stormed out of the courtroom. And he obviously wanted to put that out because he's been called Don Snorleone and Sleepy Don. So he's just lying to the people that he stormed out of the courtroom when that didn't take place. Speaking of what should I tell my wonderful son, Barron, let's not ignore the fact that one of the things that this criminal case is about is that when Donald Trump's third wife, Melania, had just given birth to Barron, Donald Trump was having sex with a porn star, and at the exact time Barron was born. And then Donald Trump, he made fraudulent business records in order to pay off the porn star. And while Melania was pregnant, Donald Trump was having sex with other people like Karen McDougal, and then he was paying her off while Melania was pregnant with Barron. So the fact that he's like, what am I going to tell my son about this? I don't know, maybe tell him that. In terms of him attending graduations, Jeff Pearlman did some great research here. In 1996, Donald Trump Jr. graduated from the Hill School in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. Trump did not attend that graduation. In 2000, Ivanka Trump graduated from Choate boarding school in Wallingford, Connecticut. Trump failed to attend that graduation. In 2002, Eric Trump graduated from Hill School in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. Trump did not attend that graduation. In 2012, Tiffany Trump graduated from Viewpoint School in Calabasas, California. Trump failed to attend that graduation. And Karen, here is Donald Trump leaving court yesterday, and here's what he had to say. Let's play this clip.
So thank you very much. We had some amazing things happen today. As you know, my son is graduating from high school, and it looks like the judge will not let me go to the graduation of my son, who's worked very, very hard. He's a great student. I'm very proud of the fact that he did so well. And I was looking forward for years to have graduation with his mother and father there. And it looks like the judge isn't going to allow me to escape this scam. It's a scam trial.
Karen, what do you make of all of that?
I mean, look, there were a lot of substantive rulings that were made today. This wasn't just jury selection. In fact, the whole morning was about the fact that the information from the Access Hollywood tape is coming in, that Karen McDougal is going to be allowed to testify, and so a lot of substantive rulings. And the only thing he complained about, it was the fact that the judge said he's not deciding now whether he's going to allow him, and he's stretching that as he's not going to allow me. I think that's a good sign because he could have complained about the judge's rulings, and he chose not to do that. Instead, he chose to talk about something like this. So in some ways, it just makes the whole thing a little bit a little I know he's once again not telling the truth, but he's also not taking advantage of actual legal rulings, right? So he's either not paying attention and doesn't realize that he's losing, that he lost a lot of the motions today. Well, I guess we do know that he was sleeping, so maybe he just wasn't paying attention, or maybe it didn't register. But I just didn't understand why he would choose the one thing that didn't get ruled on to talk about.
And then, Karen, I want to share with you also, he then has Alina Habba last night doing the rounds and also spreading the lies and disinformation. So here is Alina Habba saying that it's a violation of Donald Trump's due process rights under the Constitution for him not to be able to watch the Supreme Court oral argument in person, which, again, she just says these things that are just so blatantly false. And, it's one of the reasons she's one of Donald Trump's useful idiots who just goes out there and can, any lawyer with self-respect would never do anything like this. But this is kind of what her role is. So let's play that clip.
No, not even allowing a person due process, the right to go sit in front of the Supreme Court and hear a case that determines many lawsuits that are currently against President Trump on immunity, on grounds for immunity. Let's not forget something here, Sean. President Trump was in Washington when this case was going on, when this is happening, when somebody made a notation in an accounting record at Trump Organization. He was in Washington taking care of this country.
And it's all just non sequiturs. Like what she's saying makes zero sense at all. And then here she repeats the line about Barron's graduation. Let's play this clip.
Not even allowing a father, never mind a former president, but a father attend his son's graduation. And let's not forget Passover. OK, observant Jews have a right to go and pray to who they want and observe Passover. And this judge would not allow it, not for any of the attorneys. And there are observant Jewish attorneys on the Trump team and as well on the DA team. It's just a sad state of affairs for the American people. I can assure you of that.
I'm not sure she really knows
totally
who.
False.
I'm not sure who she knows who observant Jews actually pray to, because she's like, to whoever they want. They pray to God, but whatever. It's very interesting to me, and the thing that offends me the most about Trump's MAGA, the Trump world, and Alina Habba and all of them. I have no problem with people agreeing to disagree. Right? You disagree on viewpoints. But just coming out and saying things that are blatant lies, I can't get over that. I just can't. I don't understand it. I don't understand how they can come out and say that the judge is making us sit for Passover when he absolutely said, no, they're not. That he said that they're not sitting Monday and Tuesday, and Wednesday they don't sit because it's a calendar day. And the same thing with the graduation. He said, I'm not ruling right now. He didn't say you can't go. He said, I'm not ruling right now. And I just don't think it's right to mislead people.
Yeah, it's so untethered from the truth, untethered from reality, but it's all about kind of pushing that narrative for their audience, for their echo chamber. And as you mentioned, the judge made some favorable rulings for Donald Trump. He made some rulings against Donald Trump. The prosecution wanted to introduce the access. There's Donald Trump right there. And these cartoon sketch artists, or these sketch artists rather, do not, they all make these photos of Donald Trump. They put some pretty gnarly photos of him, but that is how he presents. That is how he looks. But a number of rulings went actually in Donald Trump's favor. The prosecution wanted to introduce the Access Hollywood tapes themselves. The judge said that the prejudicial the prejudicial aspects of it would outweigh its probative value, and said you can talk about the existence of these tapes, but the tapes themselves can't get in. The prosecution wanted to talk about how Melania was pregnant when Donald Trump had sex with Karen McDougal, and how Melania had just given birth to Barron, and Melania's pregnancy is not allowed to be discussed because the prejudicial value outweighs its probative value. In this case is about fraudulent business records. So the judge says, I'm not letting that in right there. And there were numerous rulings like that where the judge was calling balls and strikes. And, the Trump and his team will never talk about those. They'll just lie about things that the judge didn't even do. And that's why when you and I talk about law and order, when we talk about the facts, when we talk about evidence, look, to me, even if, I saw, I think, some of the MAGA people saying, let's try to get MAGA people on this jury, and you should lie about what you're going to say, get on the jury and hang that jury, give us a hung jury. And it's like, look, no matter what the outcome is of this, Karen, you and I both want a fair and impartial jury who's going to hear the facts and they're going to reach an outcome. And I'm going to respect the outcome of that when a fair and impartial jury is selected. And what this MAGA thing is doing, it's not conservative. Conservatism is all about protecting institutions, I thought, or one of the things I thought it was. That what this MAGA thing is about is ripping up the institutions, mocking our legal system, trying to just destroy confidence in it. And that's why I just think it's so important that, you and I and the whole team here continue just to relentlessly report on the facts of what's happening every day and show the data, show the evidence. And so, I'll leave it at that. Karen, anything else you want to tell people about what to kind of expect today, or any kind of final words?
I think I agree with you, Ben. And, that's what I love about what we do here is we do report on the facts. We often read the legal decisions. We read the language from it. We read the statutes to people so they can make their own decisions. And of course we have opinions. And when we do, we say, this is my opinion, right? But we at least try to tell the facts, what they are, so people have real information out there. And so join us every morning and every afternoon at the end of the court date. And you can be sure that's what the two of us are going to do. We are going to try and give actual factual information to people so they can form their own opinion. And I agree with you. If the people can't meet their burden to prove each and every element of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt, then there should be an acquittal. Whether you like or dislike Donald Trump, it doesn't matter. That's what our jury system is for. That's what our legal system is about. And it shouldn't apply differently to Donald Trump or anybody else. And the jury is the one who is making this decision. It's not the judge. He likes to say this is Biden's court. Biden has nothing to do with this court. Biden's judge. Biden has nothing to do with this judge. The district attorney has nothing to do with Joe Biden. He's an independently elected person from Manhattan. These are going to be 12 jurors that Donald Trump agrees to. He could have knocked them off, but doesn't. He's going to pick this jury, and it's the jury and the jury alone who's going to say whether or not the people of the state of New York, represented by Manhattan DA's office and Alvin Bragg, whether they proved this case beyond a reasonable doubt. Period. Full stop. These jurors have nothing to do with Joe Biden. So he has to stop saying that, because that's not what this is.
And you remember in the New York Attorney General's civil fraud case, one of the things Donald Trump was whining about is that I don't get a jury. I want a jury. I want a jury. Well, you've got a jury right now, and you should want to try to prove your innocence in front of a jury that you'll take part in selecting. Well, Karen Friedman, Agnifilo, and I will keep you updated every step of the way. We'll always have a morning video at this time each and every day of the trial. And then as soon as the trial concludes for the day, make sure you immediately jump back on the Midas Touch YouTube channel to get our immediate response, our immediate live review and summary of everything that took place today. The Midas Touch Network is your #1 stop for all news regarding the Trump criminal trial and all news regarding the political moment that we are all living in, your number one source for all news. Right now, what we're going to do is transfer everybody who's here to our next live broadcast that is currently about to take place. Midas Touch Network contributor Dina Dahl will be reporting live on a key United States Supreme Court case that is being argued right now, Fisher versus the United States. This case is very, very important, and it concerns the application of a charge that's been used by the Department of Justice to prosecute insurrectionists, the obstruction of an official proceeding count. 2 of the 4 counts against Donald Trump in the Washington, D.C. federal criminal case involve obstruction of official proceeding. And that is now before the Supreme Court, not just Donald Trump being charged with that, but all insurrectionists, if that charge can be applied to the conduct regarding the insurrection and the attempt to overthrow the results of the 2020 election. We will have Dina broadcasting live about those proceedings, and then we will have the full Supreme Court oral argument live here on the Midas Touch Network. So you don't have to go anywhere. Just stay here, and you will be transferred into the other live chat where Dina Dahl will be taking over shortly, and she'll be covering the Supreme Court oral argument. We've been talking about that Fisher case and those charges, obstruction of an official proceeding charge that's been used to prosecute insurrectionists and Donald Trump, an insurrectionist, here on the Midas Touch Network. Karen Friedman, Agnifilo, such an honor to continue this daily reporting with you. To all the Midas Mighty and Legal AFers, thank you for continuing to watch this coverage. For those new to this network, welcome. You'll see in the feed all these videos that we do throughout the day covering all this breaking news. Make sure you subscribe. And if you want to help in any way contribute to this content and help build this independent media platform, you can go to patreon.com/MidasTouch, patreon.com/MidasTouch. Thank you, everybody, for watching this special edition of Legal AF, and you will now be transferred to our next live program. Thanks for watching, and hit subscribe.
Enough! Send it to the big house, not the White House. Get the new exclusive tees, mugs, and stickers right now at store.MidasTouch.com. That's store.MidasTouch.com.